boys of her age. "Boat rocks so," she grumbled. "More waves out there, too. Watch the thing bob." "It's gone under." "No, there it is. Try it now." Catching her breath, Marian put her finger to the trigger. For a second the boat was quiet. The brown spot hung on the crest of a wavelet. It was a beautiful target. Marian was sure of her aim. Just as her finger touched the trigger, a strange thing happened. A something which sent the rifle clattering from nerveless fingers and set the cold perspiration springing to her forehead. A flash of white had suddenly appeared close to the brown spot, a slim white line against the blue green of the sea. It was a human arm. "Who where'd you suppose he came from?" she was at last able to sputter. "Don't ask me," said Lucile, scanning the sea. Never a mist nor a cloud obscured the vision, yet not a sail or coil of smoke of near by craft. "What's more important is we must help him," she said, seizing the oars and rowing vigorously. Marian, having hung the shrimp trap across the bow, drew a second pair of oars from beneath the seats and joined her in sending the clumsy craft toward the brown spot still bobbing in the water, and which, as they drew nearer, they easily recognized as the head of a man or boy. Lucky for him that he had chanced to throw a white forearm high out of the water just as Marian was prepared, unwittingly, to send a bullet crashing into his skull. Realizing that this person, whoever he might be, must have drifted in the water for hours and was doubtless exhausted, the two girls now gave all their strength to the task of rowing. With faces tense and forearms flashing with the oars, they set the boat cutting the waves. The beach and cliffs back of the bay in which the girls had been fishing were part of the shoreline of a small island which on this side faced the open Pacific Ocean, and on the other the waters of Puget Sound, off the coast of the state of Washington. Nestled among a group of giant yellow pines on a ridge well up from the beach, two white tents gleamed. This was the camp of Marian and Lucile. The rock-ribbed and heavily wooded island belonged to Lucile's father, a fish canner of Anacortes, Washington. There was, so far as they knew, not another person on the island. They had expected a maiden aunt to join them in their outing. She was to have come down from the north in a fishing smack, but up to this time had not arrived. Not that the girls were much concerned about this. They had lived much in the open and rather welcomed the opportunity to be alone in the wilds. It was good preparation for the future. They had pledged themselves to spend the following winter in a far more isolated spot, Cape Prince of Wales on Bering Straits in Alaska. Lucile, who though barely 18 years of age, had finished high school and had spent 1 year in normal school, was to teach the native school and to superintend the reindeer herd at that point. Marian had lived the greater part of her life in Nome, Alaska. But even from childhood she had shown a marked talent for drawing and painting, and had now just finished a 2 year course in a Chicago art school. Her drawings of Alaskan life and the natives had been exhibited and had attracted the attention of a society of ethnology. In fact, so greatly had they been impressed that they had asked Marian to accompany her cousin to Cape Prince of Wales to spend the winter sketching the village life of that vanishing race, the Eskimo. So this month of camping, hunting and fishing was but a preparatory one to fit them the more perfectly for the more important adventure. When they reached the mysterious swimmer, they were surprised to find him a mere boy, some 14 years of age. "What a strange face," whispered Marian, when they had assisted the dripping stranger into the boat. They studied him for a moment in silence. His hair and eyes were black, his face brown. He wore a single garment cleverly pieced together till it seemed one skin, but made of many bird skins, eider duck perhaps. This garment left his arms and legs free for swimming. He said nothing, simply stared at them as if in bewilderment. "We must get him ashore at once," said Lucile. "He must have swum a long way." 15 minutes later, after tying up the boat, Lucile came upon Marian picking the feathers from a duck they had shot that morning. "Going to make him some broth," she explained, tossing a handful of feathers to the wind. "Must be pretty weak." Lucile stole a glance at the stranger's face. "Do you think he's Oriental?" she whispered. "Might be," said Marian. "You don't have to be so careful to whisper, though. He doesn't speak our language, it seems, nor any other that I know anything about. Very curious. I tried him out on everything I know." "Chinese trying to smuggle in?" "Maybe." "He doesn't seem exactly Oriental," said Lucile, looking closely at his face. With his eyes closed as if in sleep, the boy did not, indeed, seem to resemble very closely any of the many types Lucile had chanced to meet. There was something of the clean brown, the perfect curve of the classic young Italian, something of the smoothness of skin native to the Anglo Saxon. Yet there was, too, the round face, the short nose, the slight angle at the eyes, which spoke of the Oriental. "He looks like the Eskimos we have on the streets of Nome," suggested Marian, "only he's too light complexioned. Couldn't be, anyway." "Not much likelihood of that," laughed Lucile. "Come 2,000 miles in a skin kiak to have his craft wrecked in a calm sea? That couldn't happen." "Whoever he is, he's a splendid swimmer," commented Marian. "When we reached him he was a mile from any land, with the sea bearing shoreward, and there wasn't a sail or steamer in sight." The two of them now busied themselves with preparing the evening meal, and for a time forgot their strange, uninvited guest. When Lucile next looked his way she caught his eyes upon her in a wondering stare. They were at once shifted to the kettle from which there now issued savory odors of boiling fowl. "He's hungry, all right," she smiled. When the soup was ready to serve, they were treated to a slight shock. The bird had been carefully set on a wooden plate to one side. Their guest was being offered only the broth. This he sniffed for a moment, then placing it carefully on the ground, seized the bird and holding it by the drumsticks began to gnaw at its breast. Marian stared at him, then smiled. "I don't know as a full meal is good for him, but we can't stop him now." She set a plate of boiled potatoes before him. The boy paused to stare, then to point a finger at them, and exclaimed something that sounded like "Uba Canuck." "Do you suppose he never ate potatoes?" exclaimed Lucile in surprise. "What sort of boy must he be?" She broke a potato in half and ate one portion. At once a broad smile spread over the brown boy's face as he proceeded to add the potatoes to his bill of fare. "Guess we'll have to start all over getting this meal," smiled Lucile. "Our guest has turned into a host." When at last the strange boy's hunger was assuaged, Lucile brought woolen blankets from one of the tents and offered them to him. Wrapping himself in these, he sat down by the fire. Soon, with hands crossed over ankles, with face drooped forward, he slept. "Queer sort of boy," exclaimed Lucile. "I'd say he was an Indian, if Indians lived that way, but they don't and haven't for some generations. Our little brown boy appears to have walked from out another age." Night crept down over the island. Long tree shadows spread themselves everywhere.